Well, folks, it's finally time to discuss easily the most hated Batman movie of all time, Batman and Robin. Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam. Welcome back to my Batman series, and well, this is the conclusion of my Batman series, as by the time this video goes up, The Batman is officially a week away. Oh, I am so ready. My body is ready, if you will. But I have one more mountain to climb, and that mountain is Batman and Robin. But I am not climbing the mountain alone. My partner in the Life in the Movies podcast, Jacob Martin, selflessly, I should say, volunteered to help me cover this utter train wreck. So without any further ado, Jacob, take it away.
What's going on, Ryan and all his viewers? Thank you, Ryan, for having me join your channel once again. This is the second, I think, movie review collab that we've done together. We did Prisoners over on your channel. And obviously, I'm also a co-host on the Life in the Movies podcast that Ryan's been hosting on his channel, and it's awesome to be a part of that. So today, we're talking about Batman and Robin, the infamous comic book film from 1997, directed by Joel Schumacher. Now, this is an interesting movie. It's definitely an infamous movie, that's for sure. It's one that people tend to talk about as one of the worst comic book movies ever made. Obviously, Joel Schumacher was tasked to take the Batman franchise in a more family-friendly direction after the more darker Tim Burton Batman films were pretty divisive at the time, particularly Batman Returns. And Schumacher decided to take things more in a campier direction, much like the 1960s Batman series starring Adam West. Because it seemed like at that time, most audiences believed Adam West's Batman was the definitive Batman, even though Batman's comic origins were darker in nature, as what we've been seeing lately with the Batman character and more recent stuff, like the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, Ben Affleck's interpretation of the character in the Zack Snyder verse, and Robert Pattinson in the upcoming Matt Reeves film. Batman and Robin is definitely a fascinating movie. People rate it as among the worst comic book movies of all time. People make fun of it a lot, and understandably so. This is a mess of a movie on all accounts. The plot is bombastic. It's all over the place. You have Mr. Freeze who shows up wanting to take over Gotham City by covering it ice. And then you got Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy who shows up, and she's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna destroy Gotham City and cover it with plants." And then the two villains even team up together, and they're not even compatible of villains, because when Mr. Freeze freezes Gotham City, that's gonna destroy all of Poison Ivy's plants. Like, that don't make no sense now. Like, I don't know what the writers were thinking there, teaming those two villains together. Heck, even put them in the same movie. It just doesn't work. That don't make no sense. There's a lot of other issues this movie does have. George Clooney, we all love you. You're one of the best actors, but you were no Batman. George Clooney was horribly miscast in the Batman role. And they should have just stuck with Val Kilmer for this movie, but obviously we knew that was not going to happen because Schumacher and Val Kilmer had a horrible fallout on the set of Batman Forever. Val Kilmer said he would refuse to work with Joel Schumacher ever again, and that's why we got George Clooney instead. Now, I can buy George Clooney as Bruce Wayne, the billionaire, but I cannot buy him as a crime-fighting vigilante superhero. And even him just saying, "I'm Batman," just sounds phony to me, and it sounds like he's playing Batman the parody. And that doesn't work.
Hi, Freeze. I'm Batman.
Chris O'Donnell as Robin, he's just whiny and annoying the whole time. Now, I like Chris O'Donnell in Batman Forever, even if he's a little too old to play the character, but here, he just whines and complains the whole time and is very annoying.
I want a car. Chicks dig the car.
This is why Superman works alone.
We got Alicia Silverstone, who joins the cast as Barbara. They rewrite the character. I know in comics, apparently she's the daughter of Commissioner Gordon. Here she's the niece of Alfred. And I don't know why they made the change, but anyway, her character does become Batgirl, and we see Batgirl in action in the third act of the movie. And I just felt like that was a shoehorned addition to an already bloated narrative with so many characters within this movie. And Alicia Silverstone's acting just comes off as a bit wooden and phony in this movie as well. But I think that has more so to do with the writing than just Alicia Silverstone's acting in general. This movie definitely is all over the place, and I can definitely see why this is a turnoff for so many people, especially if you're not a fan of Joel Schumacher's direction. However, I honestly don't mind Batman and Robin. Technically, it's a bad movie, but it's entertaining to watch at the same time. Like, I think if you approach Batman and Robin as Joel Schumacher's love letter to the 60s series instead of it being a continuation of the Burton era Batman films, I think you'll enjoy this fine. I think there's a lot of fun aspects within this movie. Like, even the direction by Schumacher himself, the direction is actually pretty good. Like, I love Schumacher's over-the-top, flashy set designs of Gotham City. There are some really cool model work within this movie, and there are some extravagant sequences that he does provide in the movie that are a lot of fun. And even the campy additions to the story, as ridiculous and memed and poked fun of as they are, we all know the ones we're talking about. Mr. Freeze's ice puns, the Bat credit card, the Bat nipples, and Robin's rubber lips. All those silly aspects that people hate in this movie. I think those are the aspects that make this movie fun. Like, I'm watching the movie, seeing all this stuff happen, and it just cracks me up that somebody thought this was a good idea. And it's just hilarious to me that this is in a Batman movie. Yeah, the camp is doubled down compared to what Schumacher did with Batman Forever. Because I feel like with Forever, Schumacher mixed the camp with trying to carry on what Tim Burton started. Here he goes all out on camp, because it's no secret that most of the movie's narrative is based on a toy line. Like, the toys for the suits and the action figures and the cars and stuff were created before the movie was even developed. Like, this is all a big promo for Batman and Robin toys. It's no secret that that was what actually happened, and that was what made the film all the more ridiculous and campy. But it's still crazy entertaining to watch, seeing how far down the rabbit hole Schumacher goes and how wild his vision actually got. It may not be top tier Batman, but Schumacher executes what he set out to do, and I have to respect him for that as a creator. He did something completely bold. It didn't work, but I have to respect him for at least trying. That's the best way I can describe Batman and Robin. It's a fun movie. It's a messy movie, but it's an entertaining movie. Like, I don't get bored watching Batman and Robin. Like, this movie cracks me up in so many ways. The bizarre dialogue.
All right, everyone, chill.
Some of the weird plot threads in this movie. Like, Batman and Robin even show up at a charity ball. And I thought Batman was supposed to be hidden in the shadows, but no, they're hanging out at the charity ball with everybody else. Only in the Schumacher movies. And also, the two big things that make this movie worth watching. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Uma Thurman completely understand what Schumacher was going for. They are the two most entertaining aspects of this whole movie. Schwarzenegger and his ridiculous ice puns, Uma Thurman and her seductive plant puns, as weird as that sounds. Those two actors are completely hamming up the material, and I love their performances because of that. I enjoy those two actors the most in this movie, and they are the ones that keep the movie the most engaging. Now, because people hated this movie so much, and the movie underperformed at the box office, Joel Schumacher was denied the chance of a third Batman movie. Now, I don't know, Ryan, if you know this or not, but Joel Schumacher was supposed to direct a third Batman movie called Batman Triumphant, if I'm not mistaken. And apparently, Scarecrow was going to be the villain in this movie. And Scarecrow was to be played by none other than Coolio, of all people. Yeah, and Coolio even cameoed in Batman and Robin during the scene where Barbara is doing her motorcycle race. And I cannot picture Coolio as the Scarecrow, but that would be one weird performance if that was the case. A part of me is interested in seeing what Schumacher would have done if he had made this third movie, but that never happened, and that's all one big interesting what if. And thankfully, Christopher Nolan revived the Batman franchise 8 years later with the excellent Batman Begins, and I love that movie as well. So, Batman and Robin, I enjoy this. As hot of a take that is, I don't mind Batman and Robin. I cannot say this is one of the worst comic book movies ever made, especially when movies like Four Stick, Catwoman, and the Justice League cut exist. At least Batman and Robin is never boring. There's interesting set pieces, as outrageous as they are. I did enjoy some of the campy performances, especially from Schwarzenegger and Uma Thurman. Not all the performances land, like Clooney doesn't land, Chris O'Donnell, Alicia Silverstone, and all that. There are some poor acting in this movie. The story is all over the place, yes. But I can't say this is a horrible movie when there's a lot of ridiculous entertainment value to it. And if you approach this as a love letter to the Adam West era, then this movie is a load of fun. That's my 2 cents on Batman and Robin, and I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. Like, this movie is not as bad, I don't think, as many people say it is, and I think this movie is a true guilty pleasure. That's definitely a hot take, as I know so many people who hate this movie, but I don't mind this. I don't mind Batman and Robin. It's a load of fun. So thank you, Ryan, for having me on your channel once again. I enjoyed revisiting Batman and Robin and talking about it. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on the movie when this video actually drops, and I can't wait to talk more movies with you on the Life in the Movies podcast. This is Jacob, and I'll see you next time.
Do go check out both of Jacob's channels. They will be linked in the description. Also, check us out every Wednesday for the Life in the Movies podcast. No matter how you feel about the Batman movies, which actor you think did the best, which movie is the best overall, I think we all can universally agree that Batman and Robin is the worst Batman movie by a country mile. But with that being said, though, I have a bit of a soft spot for the movie. I think, if my memory serves, this was the first Batman movie I ever watched, and I was a young kid, so I loved it. But as I grew older, I recognized that, yeah, the movie was really not that good. However, like I said in my Batman Forever review, I am not going to be spending this review dunking on Joel Schumacher. Like I said in that review, he is a very talented director. See movies like Falling Down or The Lost Boys if you want proof of that. However, like most Hollywood directors, he has had his fair share of duds, and Batman and Robin just so happens to be one of them. Kinda similar to the Tim Burton situation, Joel Schumacher did a really good thing, as Batman Forever, despite being more negative received by critics, audiences loved it, and so the studio was like, alright Joel, you have the keys to the car. Don't screw it up. And, well, he kinda did. Now again, I love this movie because of just how bad it is, but I gotta give Joel Schumacher credit. He went all out with this direction, and I'm not going to lie, there is something admirable about just how lunatic this movie is. I could talk about this movie for hours, but for the sake of my sanity, I am just going to hit, well, the greatest hits. Starting with the costumes, and I'm pretty sure you know where this is headed. The bat nipples. Folks, I don't have any real deep analysis as to why these exist. My problem is that they exist, in that, why do they exist? It's like adding nipples to the Iron Man suit. It's like, what's the point? Honestly, really, the bat nipples are kind of the tip of the iceberg in considering the rest of this movie. Yeah, that it is a noticeable problem, but really, in the grand scheme of things, this movie has 99 problems and the nipples ain't one of them. Let's talk about the cast, starting with George Clooney as Batman. Now, George Clooney is a lot of things. He's a really good actor. He's a really good tequila salesman. He is a terrible Batman, and in later years, he's pretty much owned the fact that he's the worst Batman. Like, in interviews, he pretty much calls himself that, which is honestly refreshing to see a big Hollywood actor like George Clooney kind of self-deprecate himself. But at the same time, wow, like, I don't think he really even tried. All that I'm saying is that he did do better work and would do better work going forward. That's all I'm saying. I was more forgiving of Chris O'Donnell's performance in Batman Forever, but all of his negative character traits shine like a diamond in this movie. When people complain about how Robin is too whiny, yeah, don't show him this because that's pretty much case closed. All Robin does is whine. Like, Batman, why don't you trust me? It gets grating after a while. Chris O'Donnell is a good actor, but he's not a miracle worker, and you just feel that he is just being handcuffed to these awful character decisions. But while those two performances are bad, they don't hold a candle to the villains, starting off with Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. Now, this decision on paper actually makes sense. If you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger's decade of the 90s, he was one of the biggest stars going. He was in T2. He was in Last Action Hero. The guy was a legit draw. But he was horribly miscast in this. All of his lines are pretty much ice puns, like, let's kick some ice, and cool party. It's just, oh god. And what makes it kind of worse is that the movie actually tries to give him some weight and motivation as to why he is doing the things that he does, and it's a swing and a miss. Again, something the animated series does really well is Mr. Freeze. Watch the Heart of Ice episode. It's excellent. And then there is Poison Ivy. Yeah, this is not good. Especially considering that Uma Thurman had just been coming off of Pulp Fiction. You may have heard of it. So, what went into this? It's like, again, it's like the movies made for adults treat the villains like children, and the stuff for children treats their villains more maturely. It's a weird dynamic, but it exists. Even Poison Ivy's origin is over the top. She starts off as this really nerdy scientist, and then she, I want to say, dies by chemical bath, and then she reemerges, and it just makes no sense. If I had to muster up a compliment for the movie, is that some of the stunts actually look somewhat decent. One of my favorite scenes of the movie is the opening, where Batman and Robin are fighting off Mr. Freeze and his goons. And it looks like it was done on an actual set, which if that is the case, then that's great. But just Batman and Robin playing ice hockey with a rather large diamond. Oh boy. I feel like I'm going soft on the movie, and I think I might be, but I don't hate this movie. I recognize how bad it is, and yes, it is bad, but it's a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine. I recognize that it's bad, but it's so much fun watching how awful it actually is. It's also helped that, accidentally, Batman and Robin caused the comic book movie craze that we're still in the middle of. I mean, think about it. From 1997 to even 1998, we got Blade. 2 years later, we got X-Men. In 2002, we got Spider-Man and the subsequent trilogy. Comic book movies were taken far more seriously because of Batman and Robin, in kind of spite of it, but, I mean, it's a parallel. I think due to time, I think Batman and Robin not necessarily has gained a better reputation in terms of quality, but people have recognized it for its so bad it's good reputation. Because I consider it among the great so bad that it's good movies, like The Room, Birdemic, and Samurai Cop. Like I said, I could talk about this movie for hours and hours, but for the sake of just brevity, just say that I suggest watching this with a lot of friends and a lot of snacks and a lot of drinks, because it's Mystery Science Theater 3000 levels of parody. And that is all for me, and that is all for the Batman series. Before I do go, though, I wanted to, because I was interested, and curiosity killed the cat, I wanted to talk about some of the Batman movies that were planned after Batman and Robin that never saw the light of day. Joel Schumacher was supposed to direct a movie called Batman Unchained, which would have been a direct sequel to Batman and Robin. It would have starred Scarecrow as either played by Coolio of Gangsta's Paradise fame, or Nicolas Cage. I leave that up to you, the fine people of the internet, to decide which one would have been better. And the most intriguing one to me was a Batman Year One movie directed by Darren Aronofsky. Now, there's a chance that you probably heard of this one, but it would have been directed by Darren Aronofsky, and curiously, Joaquin Phoenix would have been Batman. Oh, considering how Joaquin Phoenix played one of the more iconic villains of Batman, that just seems really weird. It's pretty safe to say, though, that Batman was in good hands starting in 2005 with the Nolan trilogy. But what did you all think of Batman and Robin? Leave your favorite moment in the comments. I'd love to read them. Shout out to Jacob for being a part of the review. He's always welcome on the channel. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, and if you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to allow notifications. That way when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.